Toss a coin to your Witcher because after a year and 8 months of no Witcher content, we are graced with a standalone animated feature that is actually pretty damn good.
It's good.
Really?
Yes, The Witcher Nightmare of the Wolf tells the origin story of Vesemir, the Witcher who trained Geralt and whose character will play a large role in Season 2 of the live-action show. So in a lot of ways, Nightmare of the Wolf is a nice primer for this character as we wait till December when the new season arrives. But this movie also has a ton of cool Easter eggs and connections to the greater Witcher universe that we'll be taking a look at. So pop a potion and oil up your swords, okay that sounded weird, and make sure to like and subscribe, because I'm always coming out with new Witcher content. Nightmare of the Wolf starts much like the Witcher TV show. Here we see an action-packed scene which demonstrates our protagonist and what they do: kill monsters and collect coin. And this juxtaposition between Vesemir and Geralt is fantastic because not only does Nightmare end on a young Geralt, but it also sets up how these two characters are similar. Vesemir will become a father-like figure for Geralt, just like Geralt will become a father-like figure for Ciri. But it doesn't take long to figure out how these two characters differ in their flaws, that thing that holds them back as a character. Vesemir's flaw is that he is too obsessed with coin and riches.
Coin's your real lover. More of her to pluck out there, isn't there?
In the first scene, he couldn't care less about the young boy whose family was just slain by a Leshen, leaving the boy alone in the woods to fend for himself while he takes off with his reward.
He said, practice your sad face and maybe a passerby will offer you a ride.
If Vesemir is going to grow as a character, he will need to overcome his flaw and learn there are things more important than coin. If you want to know about Geralt's flaw, I suggest you check out my Witcher ending explained, which I'll leave a link to in the description below. The fight against the Leshen, also known as a Leshy or Spriggan, also demonstrates 3 important Witcher techniques used to defeat monsters. 1, the ingestion of toxic potions which grant the Witcher powerful buffs. 2, the application of oils on weapons providing additional benefits, and 3, the use of magical signs. Here we see Vesemir utilize the Igni sign, short for Ignite, a powerful pyrokinetic blast. The strange thing about this battle with the Leshen is that the monster speaks, and Leshen don't. Not only that, it spoke Elien, a language of the Ain-El elves which Filavandrel calls a dead dialect linked to ancient times. You might remember Filavandrel from the show when Geralt and Jaskier encounter him living in hiding. In the throne room of the capital of Cadwyn, Ardcarrig, apologies if I'm getting some of the pronunciations wrong here, sits King Dagred. He's listening to the plight of a mage by the name of Tetra, who believes the Witchers to be creating monsters in order to muster more work. Witchers, after all, are monster hunters, and the more monsters there are, the more coin they can collect. But the king takes the advice of one of his advisors, Lady Zerbst. She's voiced by Mary McDonnell, which, if you haven't seen Battlestar Galactica, go and watch immediately.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Lady Zerbst doesn't want to start a war with the Witchers, and the king agrees. Unless there is more evidence, the case is closed. And it wouldn't be a Witcher film without one in a bathtub. Vesemir is here with Filavandrel discussing the Leshen's use of an ancient tongue. The elf has been able to translate the Leshen's words, making out the phrase, "Beware the den of my dead." Filavandrel remarks on a mage named Kitsu who spoke Elien and went missing. Perhaps there's a link. There's also a fun line here where Vesemir talks about leaving the training of the young ones to other Witchers. He doesn't care about training them at all. The irony here is that he'll be the one to carry on that torch and lead a new generation of Witchers at the end of the film. We flash back to get a look at Vesemir as a child. The son of a poor family, he dreams of a life of riches and status where he can build the life of his dream with his friend and love interest, Ileana. It's here he also meets a Witcher by the name of Deglin and gets a glimpse of the Witcher lifestyle. Deglin is strong, powerful, and has a vast knowledge of monsters. Vesemir watches as he makes easy work of a demonic Mar, and even gets to hold the hefty pouch of coins Deglin got for his work. It's this pivotal moment that entices Vesemir to run away from home and join the Witchers. He tells Ileana of his dreams.
Excuse me for wanting to be good at something other than serving.
He talks about one day being able to afford stylish armor, buy her a house, and everything she desires. But what Vesemir doesn't understand is that life is more than coin. All those things shouldn't matter as long as he's with her. She says one of my favorite lines to him.
So trade my debt to a master I hate with a debt to one that I love.
The scene also foreshadows the film's tragic end with Vesemir poking a dead wolf. The wolf represents Vesemir, the oldest living member of the Wolf School, a specific branch of Witcher training. Wolves also adore the Witcher medallions. Back in present day, Vesemir reads posters proclaiming the evil ways of the Witchers.
Witchers are rogues without virtue. True diabolical creatures fit only for killing.
Tetra herself is of pure human mage blood, so you can see here how they film comments on race, class, and society. There's a great edit here when Tetra talks about what it takes to become a witcher, and the shot is a close-up of her eyes, a nod to the fact witchers' eyes turn to what Carla Demetia Crest in Blood of the Elves calls those of a viper. This also allows witchers to see in the dark, and refers to part of their trials they endure as youngsters to become witchers, trials which, as we see in the film, result in many of the children being killed. Back in Vesemir's past, we see a young witcher trainee by the name of Thomas crying. That's because he's been given to the witchers via the Law of Surprise. You'll be familiar with this if you've read the books or seen the television show. The law dictates that a man saved by another is expected to offer to his savior a reward whose nature is unknown to one or both parties. In Geralt's case, his request for curing Dunny was what you find at home yet don't expect. This would end up being Suri, who at the time was still in the womb of Dunny's wife Pavida, and Dunny had no idea. We get to see firsthand how brutal these trials are for the kids, with Vesemir being one of a few survivors to successfully undergo them and become a witcher. Vesemir also gets a crash course in mutagenic alchemy when we're introduced to a mage by the name of Riedrich. Riedrich tells Vesemir about monsters.
Mages made monsters, then made witchers to kill them?
You see, Riedrich holds the secrets to combining and creating monsters, holding on to these secrets so other mages don't make the mistakes of the past. The irony here is that he and Daglin are using them for their own greed. Vesemir receives a letter from Ilyana telling him his parents have been killed and she has come under the protection of a noble family in Cadwin. We'll later find out that Lady Zerps, the woman we saw as an advisor to the king, is in fact Ilyana at 70 years old. Vesemir, however, looks like he hasn't aged, and that's because witchers age much slower than regular humans. There's a fun line where three witchers, Eskel, Lambert, and Remus are mentioned. At least two of these witchers, Eskel and Lambert, have been confirmed for season 2 of The Witcher, and we've actually seen Remus at the beginning of episode 3 in season 1. He's the guy who gets killed by a Striga, so at this point in Nightmare of the Wolf, he would still be alive. Vesemir and Luca get in a fight with some local knights and end up being jailed for defending themselves. However, it is Ilyana who comes to Vesemir's aid, saying that if he can slay the beast that has been plaguing the woods surrounding the capital, he can be set free. The only problem is he'll have to be accompanied by the Witcher-hating Tetra. While camping, Tetra mentions two important things. Number one, chaos, the force which can be harnessed by mages and to a lesser extent witchers to use magic. The second and more important is her story about a priest who hired a witcher to kill a troublesome girl. As we'll find out later, this girl was her mother, killed at the hands of a witcher in exchange for coin. So we can see where Tetra's motivations are coming from when it's revealed she's the big baddie. She only sees witchers as money-hungry, devoid of any virtue, and to some extent, she's right. We also learn that Tetra was trained at Artusa, the same place we saw Yennefer train in season 1. On their journey, they encounter Kitsu, the missing mage who seems to have been overtaken by a demonic Mar, just like that woman from Vesemir's childhood. A brief battle ensues in which Kitsu disappears in an illusion of an avalanche. Take note of the yellow colors of this illusion. It'll be the same colors we see in the illusions near the end, but more on that in a bit. Vesemir and Tetra come across an old elven school which has been repurposed to a garrison. This is a subtle nod to the human-elven war in which elves were driven from their homelands and into the woods after the arrival of humans on the continent. Here, Vesemir and Tetra find Filavendrel, who believes the witchers are making these monsters in order to make more money. We also see a young elf girl who we'll find is Kitsu's daughter, and that Kitsu has been experimented on using mutagenic alchemy, combining her with that of a Mar. Remember that Tetra is a human and thus would want to kill these two elves, but Vesemir lets them go. He says to Tetra of his decision,
It was not a question of price.
Oh, the witches found his morals.
Which is the beginning of his character arc changing. By the end of the story, we'll see how a once virtueless, money-hungry witcher turns into a virtuous, selfless mentor. So Tetra brings proof that the witchers have been conducting these mutagenic experiments, and the king gives the order to invade Kaer Morhen. The problem here is that not all the witchers, like Vesemir, knew about these experiments, and now they're all going to be exterminated. Vesemir even confronts Daglin, saying,
We were created to kill creatures like these, not to make them.
But Daglin argues that without monsters, their way of life is at risk, stating,
The only thing keeping men from hunting us or the scarier beasts we keep away.
It's a moral dilemma where Daglin does have a point. If monsters don't exist and the Witchers aren't needed, then what is to stop the humans from killing them just like they do the elves and other races? But before any more talk on the matter can be had, Tetra arrives with an army of men and other foul creatures, culminating in an epic battle within the Grand Hall of Kaer Morhen, which if you haven't checked out the WitcherCon Inside Kaer Morhen video, I'll leave a link to that in the description. Vesemir is touched by Kitsu, where he's given a wave of dreams showcasing his greed, how he swindled people, and a life he could have had should he have stayed with Ilyana. This is all an illusion, however, and he's able to break free, behead Tetra, and stab Kitsu right through the chest. Or so we think. Remember that yellow glow we saw earlier? Well, we have yet another illusion where we find out Vesemir didn't behead Tetra, he beheaded Riedrich, and he didn't stab Kitsu, but his love Ilyana. And just as it looks like Vesemir is going to succumb to Tetra's plans, she's taken out by Daglin. Vesemir's nightmare, his nightmare of the wolf, is no dream, but reality. He killed the woman he loves, the other Witchers are dead, and he's lost everything, much like Kitsu. We get one last look at her in fox form before Kaer Morhen is destroyed. Vesemir leads Ilyana to die in front of a lake, the place where she wanted to have a house and live out her days. It's a bitter, tragic ending. As Tetra told Vesemir about mages casting illusions put on undesirable food,
made food tastier, yet the aftertaste of the illusion? Bitter.
In this way, Vesemir's life has been one big illusion, where wealth is the most important, learning the hard way that he was wrong, that bitter taste. But there's one final thing to take care of, the young ones. Before Daglin's death, he asks of Vesemir,
Make 'em Witchers. Make 'em something more. To better me.
Vesemir will end up tracking the young ones and giving them the choice whether to come with him and train as Witchers, and among them is Geralt of Rivia. For those who are wondering, Geralt came to Kaer Morhen after being dropped there by his mother, the sorceress Visenna. But that topic is for a different video. So this is a great little tie-in to tide us over until Season 2 of The Witcher comes out on December 17th. What did you think of The Witcher Nightmare of the Wolf? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you'll like and subscribe, because I'll be covering all of The Witcher Season 2. For more bad takes, you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.